to Midnight Cry. My name's Terry Baldwin. I'll be your host. And we have with us in the studio again, Dr. Daniel Shayesteh. Welcome, Daniel.
Good to be with you, Terry.
Our subject tonight is personal knowledge and understanding. Now, I grew up in the West, and in the West, we have a lot of freedom to think. We have a lot of freedom to inquire, to study, to disagree. But Daniel, you grew up in an environment, in a country, in a culture, especially after in Iran after the 1979 revolution, where that wasn't the case. Would this be true?
Yeah, exactly.
So why is it so important? What's this need to know personally? Why is that so important?
Terry, the life is a process of searching for alternatives in life, and if we do not search, if we do not find the best value of life, we are in loss, and we do not have the best thing for our life. We are missing something important. Deep in our nature, in our heart, we always desire to have good things in our lives. You know, if you don't want to have a car in your life that doesn't take you to the destination. So a good house, a good family bunch, and the good friends and good community, that's the desire of everybody, to enjoy life. But without searching, how can we know that? To stay inside the circle of our own knowledge only, not to walk out, not to evaluate the values of other people's life, we are not going to be able to get the best value for us. And also, if we do not do that, that means we are blindly following our leaders in our own homeland or in our community. Now, blind following is the most dangerous things in our lives. That really creates authoritarianism in the family and in the establishment of social life. Imagine that a family is run by a dictator, and that's the case, unfortunately, in many Islamic countries. Only father is the authoritative figure there, and especially in radical Islamic countries like Iran, that father must make sure that the whole family is aligned with Islam. If anybody really takes Islam easy, and then that father is responsible and that father is going to be punished. So therefore you see that the dictatorship is becoming strong in family, which is the nature of Islamic culture. And also society is the same. Terry, that you see that in some other countries that dictators are running the country. You see even some of them have free election, but it's the dictatorship.
Not so free.
Absolutely. You imagine that in a country somebody is president for 30 years.
Yeah.
Where is that coming from? It's the blind obedience of people. People really haven't tried to come out from their own comfort zone or established zone, in other words, come out and to discover the best value. I mean, you mentioned that you're living in Australia, and or people are living in Western countries. They have opportunity to investigate, to search, and
So in your case, though, you grew up in Iran. Before the revolution, it was an Islamic society. That's true?
That's true, yeah.
After the revolution, it was an Islamic society, but far less freedom, it seems. But what freedom did you have to inquire, to ask questions, to disagree amongst family, amongst friends, at school, at university? Did you have that freedom to do that?
Absolutely. After the revolution, you were not able at all to question the authority of leaders, to question why Quran is that, why Islamic life is this. Absolutely, you cannot do that. And actually, many of younger people in Iran, Iranian people, education is part of their life. It's just part of this heritage. They love education. They invest for their children so much to make their children educated. But the sad things after the revolution was they investigated about you as a young man or woman, whether you've been involved in Islamic, movement, or you're praying, or you're going to mosque. If not, you wouldn't enter the university, no matter you're the brightest student in the country. So really thinking, investigation, it just was forbidden for people.
How about amongst your peers, like your closest friends, and when you're out having coffee somewhere, were you free to express your concerns like that would have gone against the approved thinking or the political thought of the time? Were you free to do that?
Very close friends. Very close friends could talk to each other. They had established already a big trust among themselves, and but it's still, when they are talking, there is a idiom in Iran, actually, is in a poetic style. It says divar mush darad, mush gush darad. You see, it's in rhyme. In other words, it says there are mice in the wall. They are everywhere, and they have ears also. They listen and take the message and go there. So even two friends, sincere friends, are talking to each other. They would always say, hey, we have to be careful, but this is the situation in this country. It's secret, really, talking and criticizing, secret, and you lose your life. And you lose, not only that, you're losing the future of your children. You have invested in your entire life for your family and children, and you're losing that. So it's everywhere, fear is there, and the motivation of government really to silence people, not to criticize them, not to question their system and or any part of their belief, and therefore people are encouraged and forced to keep quiet.
So in the light of that, how do we make the best of our life? Like, how do we make the best someone's growing up? It doesn't have to be this country, it can be another country. Somebody may be watching this show, lives in a country where there is no freedom. How do we make the best?
Terry, you see, for decades I have studied myself. So I'm speaking to you from the area of education. And also my life is changed. I'm speaking also from that area. And I have studied the life of many people and investigation of many people, Terry. And especially today, even you want to investigate this multinational corporation, global organizations, I know there also, plans and implementation. Everything says to you, Terry, you have to search. You have to investigate. You have to read the chapters of each other's life and others' life. You have to find and evaluate. You have to weigh the quality of things and see whether this works for you or not. Whether the things you have in your life, they are really good for your life, or you're just robbed and pushed to follow those things. It's so important. And after that, you search and you weigh the things and you see this is logically, practically is good, then you take the third step. It's the decision making. I want to care for my life. I don't want anybody to abuse me in my life. I am a creature of God. God has created me with freedom of choice. He desires for me to have the best in my life. And then I say, I have to have this. Maybe you asked me a question, or many people have asked me a question, but don't you see that we are pressure on these tyrannical regimes and authoritarianists in this country? But my response to them is, look, everything you accept first is in your heart. You need to see if you're in prison, if the leader is really abusing your right in that country, decide in your heart and accept that beautiful thing in your heart and make yourself strong in that value. And when you become strong in that value, even you keep quiet, Terry, your body language will speak about that beauty. And so this is what people need to know, and that's the way we can make the best of values part of our life and live with it and enjoy it.
You're right. Daniel, there was a great contrast in your life because you went from being a Muslim, a very devout Muslim, and part of a revolution in Iran. Now you travel all over the world. You're teaching philosophy, culture, religion. What you've just said there, this is your motivation now. Your motivation is you want to speak to people. You want to open their mind to things. Can you expand on that? Like, what is it that drives you now to do all this traveling, to stay away from home so long? And
Terry, I was so sad when, for the first time, I discovered I had the opportunity to read other cultures and religions and philosophies, and I discovered beautiful things that for years I was deprived of them, you know, kept in a limited situation, didn't know them. And it is so sad, really, that there are beautiful things in the world and people do not know that. And when I decided to make those best values part of my life, the joy of life came into my, you know, family, in my family relationship. The whole relationship absolutely changed. The relationship I had with my wife, with my children, that totally changed. And that beautiful part of life came into our lives, and we said, look, if you have a candle, you know, lighten a candle, that light should really reflect this life to the surroundings. We cannot cover it, you know. If you put a cover on the light, it just goes off. But if we claim that we have that light, we have to talk to other people. So I decided to do that, and Terry, that brought joy into my life. And I travel worldwide, and I speak to people about different philosophies, about different cultures, different religions, and help them to see them personally, to evaluate them personally, and to discover the best personally. And I see the changes in their lives. That's so joyful to me. And not only to my own personal being, our world will become good. Our families will become good. You know, families become good, and they contribute good things to the world. This is the way we can contribute to the world and make it good. Just, you know, sitting in somewhere and not going out, you know, not reflecting those beautiful knowledge to other people, it's not going to help the society.
Well, what you're putting in a nutshell there is what Jesus said when you know a tree by its fruit. That's how you know the tree.
Absolutely.
In relation to that, you know, just stepping back to where you came from, where you grew up in Iran, after the revolution, this big change that came, Ayatollah Khomeini, he's the leader. Was he bringing just his own personal ideas that were really separated from historically what is Islam, or was there in the roots of these changes Islam itself? What's your...
It's Islam, Terry. I know the culture of Iran. I know the Iranian history. Iran is the country of Cyrus and Darius. They are great men in the history of Iran. Still, fortunately, many Iranians attach themselves to them. You see, Cyrus, his creed was accepted in the United Nations as the ancient, very creed of democracy and freedom.
Yes, it was wonderful.
In the world.
Yes, yeah.
Cyrus says, in my country, every person is free to choose any religion and belief he wants. If he or she is persecuted for the sake of his or her religion and belief, I, as the King of Kings, will stand behind that person. So this is that country. It's not the Ayatollah Khomeini or the present Ayatollah or the one who will come after that, really this depression, this limitation in knowledge is coming from the root of Islam. Islam is not saying that. Quran is saying that nobody has right to speak beyond the words of Muhammad. Nobody has right to question the authority of the Quran. Quite absolutely different to what Bible says, and Bible believes in people's authority. Moses is a great prophet. He speaks in Deuteronomy chapter 18. He said, if a prophet is speaking, if he is not speaking the truth, you people do not follow him. The authority is given to people. God has created people with freedom, and respecting their freedom, they are, and asking them to decide in their life. It's the same with God. You see, you know that in Isaiah chapter 1, God is calling people, come and reason together. The mighty creator of universe is asking people, come and reason together. God is valuing people freedom of choice. God has given them freedom of choice. He is valuing that. He is appreciating that. But really, that was the value of Islam came into the country. It's strange to Iranian culture. Now, that's one reason you can go to Afghanistan, say what Taliban did in that country. It was not any better what Ayatollah Khomeini did. Actually, it was more worse than that. Or go to Sudan, or go to rigid Islamic countries that there is no freedom. So it is coming from Islam. It's not Ayatollah. And that's why the world really needs to know. The Islamic world needs to know that it is the Islam is closing the door of investigation for people.
Yeah, that's interesting. I remember last time we spoke, you mentioned, because you love philosophy all your life, you've loved philosophy, you've studied philosophy, you teach philosophy, and you made the comment that when you first started to read the words of Jesus, the recorded words of Jesus, you were impressed. You were really impressed.
Absolutely.
You were communicating to me that there was this great contrast that you noticed as you're reading these words. Can you expound on that a little bit? You
see, I was amazed. Jesus says, know the truth will set you free. I was amazed. You see, truth is a dynamic word. Truth is greater than the world. Truth is God. God is truth. If you want to understand this huge, big, amazing word, you need to take a step out of your life and go and walk and read the chapters of other people. Jesus is saying that in Matthew 5, 6, 7, I don't want blind obedience. I'm not here to make a religion. I really want people who understands me. I really want people whose eyes are open, whose ears are open. They search and they themselves decide to follow that. So I was fascinated. This was only the, social life I found that, but there are amazing other things, His description about the nature of God, his description about the relationship with God, is the way God reveals himself, and people can have relationship with him. All of them were amazing to me. I mean, the words of gospel were amazing to me. It was always telling me, come out, take a step out of the circle that Islam has prepared for you, and come out and see the world of beauty from heaven that is spreading all over the world and through Jesus. Take it and let it be yours, and bring your dignity back. In other words, philosophically speaking, let God establish you on the root He has created you for.
Daniel, I've noticed two things actually in speaking to I've spoken to many Muslims in the last 12 years, and I've noticed two things that Muslims, I find, the ones that I'm speaking to anyway here who are living in the West, generally speaking, they're very ignorant of their own history, and they're very ignorant of even the theology and the historical classical text of Islam. I found them very ignorant of it. It's almost like you have to, if you want a good discussion with a Muslim, if you want to speak to them about Christianity and Islam, it's almost like you have to educate them about Islam And then also they're very ignorant of the scriptures, the Christian scriptures. You have to then educate them about the scriptures. You have to expose them to both. I'm sure your experience has been more in this area.
Absolutely, Terry. People are prevented really to know their roots. To know, we were deceived for many years, told that Iranians cried for Islam and asked Saudi Arabian to come, to save them. But then you go and read the history, they came and slaughtered millions of Iranians. 15 years Iranian fought them. They burned the libraries in Iran. The historians are saying if that library was today, it was $5 billion, the value of the library. Unfortunately, people cannot go and deeply study about that. That was our problem. We followed Ayatollah Khomeini blindly. We didn't go into the depths and to understand the social and political philosophy of Islam. We are trusting Ayatollah Khomeini, what kind of country it will bring for us. It is the same thing is happening in Egypt, unfortunately. Muslim Brotherhood, there are many people behind Muslim Brotherhood. They are not aware of the deep values of Islamic social and political philosophy. They are just trusting exactly if they trust Muslim Brotherhood, Egypt will be just like Iran. So people do not have that opportunity, and all the time you speak to people, they are terrified. They just want to escape that kind of conversation with you. But we need to continue, and I am continuing, and I praise God, Terry, that among Iranians, among Afghans, among Tajiks, I speak in Persian through TV to them. There are many, many young boys and girls who have seen the depression of regimes in their countries and Islamic, system principle in this country. They are aware now. They want to learn a lot of things, and we get amazing feedbacks from them. They are just finding one way or ways for themselves to come out from that depression and to find things that help them to come into light.
Daniel, we're doing this broadcast from Australia, and I know the Australian people very well. I'm 58 years of age, and I grew up in Australia, and I know that many, many Australians, they don't understand Islam, but they do understand this. There's something wrong. Because they're seeing daily the violence, and they're seeing this, it's coming out, especially since September 11th, 2001. So they know there's something dreadfully wrong, but they're all the time being told Islam is a religion of peace. And they want to believe that. They really do. They want to believe that. But they know there's something wrong. They can't put their finger on it, but they know there's something dreadfully wrong with Islam because they see what's happening and they hear what's happening. The news is not good. And we have examples in Australia here where we've had people arrested because they wanted to blow up our troops. We've had people arrested because they wanted to do violence to somebody.
Yeah.
So this whole thing of the truth and needing to know personally, it is important. I can see what you're saying. It is. I agree with you 100%. What would you have to say? What message would you have for the people that are viewing this program, as far as what's your advice to them as far as what they should do? If, like, we don't know, the people that are watching this program, where they live, under what circumstances they live. They may live in a country that they don't have the freedom to inquire. They may not have access to information like we have access here in the West. So what would you say to them from your experience?
I say to people who are living in under the rule of tyrannical regime like communism or Islam, they need to find a way to read other beliefs and see they are robbed, absolutely. And it's also their rights, they have to investigate that. But for people in Australia, in Western countries, we are so grateful. You know, I lived in Iran. That's the land of my forefathers. They lived there for more than 3,500 years. But a bunch of radical Muslims from Saudi Arabia, they came and captured our country, and they said to us, "You do not belong to this country." And we had no choice but to leave the country, and we came, and Australia opened the arm for us, and we never forget that. So we want always to appreciate that. But the appreciation, Terry, I just want to say to Australians and to Western world and to American people, that people are coming to your countries. You need to know their cultural backgrounds. You need to know the root of their beliefs. Simply just hearing from someone and calling Islam is a religion of peace, that's not going to help, Terry.
Thank you, Daniel. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. This is Midnight Cry, and thank you for being with us.